Building out our van that we're in right now took both way longer and way shorter than we expected. But that story starts 7 months ago, where we left off the last video, having just bought the van and brought it home.
But it couldn't stay there for long.
Ready to go to the mechanic?
Yep.
I am definitely a little worried about getting there. Everything that we already know that's wrong with it from our first visit. Lots of stuff to do.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll have it by April. That's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I assume I'll be on the phone with him very often. Surprisingly, I wasn't, but he called us last week Monday, which was just under a week of the van being at his place, and he said he was done with the mechanical work. So I went to the mechanic to let him know what we needed done on the roof, as well as that rear door right there.
Then he went back a week later after he got the taillights in. And finally, almost after 3 months from seeing the van for the first time, we got the news we wanted to hear.
Hey, it's Anthony and Carissa with the big van. We're just calling to see if everything was ready with it to be picked up.
Great, thanks.
That's a much better looking top. Yeah. Oh, they look so good, the taillights do. And then is the door seated? You wanna get in and tell me if it works? How is it?
It looks about the same as the other side.
Oh, like it looks like an actual functioning van now.
Crazy.
All right, take care, girl.
Thank you.
Good luck. Go get the tires and go get the alignment.
You'd think at this point we would be ready to start building out the van after spending... How much do you think?
$2,500.
$3,500. Just on the mechanical work, and then another $1,300 on the body work, but we still couldn't even drive it until we got new tires and made sure that they were aligned, because even as I noticed on the drive home...
Definitely still got some tire issues. A lot of it seems better already, but it's definitely still shaking, but I think that's mostly the tires.
So we found a good deal on Walmart.com for tires and ordered them. Let's buy some tires! Give them our money!
We were so anxious to get to work on the van, and it needed a lot of it.
I feel like we're officially starting now.
I kind of don't even want to know what's under the floorboards.
It's gonna be so much dirt. We're gonna end up at Home Depot or Lowe's or something.
We did it, but we definitely should have. It took way too long to get the floorboards up and see what was underneath. Definitely some stuff to clean up, but it looks pretty good. Hey, as long as we can live in it.
Honestly, it doesn't need to be pretty. And the next day, we finally got everything up and started taking down the wall panels.
Ooh, no rust.
A little.
Where?
Right there.
Little tiny rust.
We also took down the partition that used to be there.
Audrey, it's throwing that thing.
But that's where we started making some pretty big mistakes.
Those 3 things bested me and my stupid equipment. That broke off. Because I don't think I have another star thing. Well, I might. But I don't think so.
And that was the first big mistake that I made was, and it's pretty much just my mistake, being too cheap to actually buy the equipment that we needed. Don't get me wrong, the van definitely turned out to be way more expensive than we thought it was gonna be, but being too stubborn to actually get the right type or size of drill bits really caused us a lot more frustration than we needed to have. The second big mistake came from destroying the wall and the floor panels. Those would have made great templates for later parts of the build, but I had to waste my time remaking new ones that weren't even as precise, but we'll get to that. First, we had a lot more cleaning to do while we still waited on our tires because...
They canceled our tire order, dude. We're supposed to have them on there yesterday. I don't think they'll pick up. We should just go and see.
It took 5 minutes for them to hang up on me last time, so it seems about right. After our first set of tires got canceled, we found some more on sale. And they said they were all in Orlando, so we could pick them up in a few days on April 22nd. But
I just got an email that says we had to cancel your appointment for tires. That was in 15 minutes from now. I have no idea why. So I have this email from 5 o'clock, which says that our appointment got canceled. And then I have this email from 5:12 that says, appointment reminder, please be on time. Who freaking knows?
you'd think, like, of all the issues, this would be an easy one. So we just found out that the tires will not be ready until May 12th. That they're still being shipped. But since we were already on our way to Walmart because we had a 6 p.m. appointment, we decided to stop in and see if they had the tires there because it wasn't very clear on the line.
Get your finger on that tread.
Appointment was 6 o'clock. I don't think so.
They said that they never schedule an appointment for 6 o'clock, even though it's the only time slot that they gave us. So definitely not getting them in today, but at least he's checking on the tires to see if they're here.
Buying a van and buying tires. Why are those the hardest parts?
So far. No?
Okay.
All right, consensus for now is we wait until May 12th. Like, unless there's a crazy deal that comes up, which there might. You guys will see that, right?
No.
So enthusiastic.
There's no crazy deal. We'll just have to wait.
Now, like usual, Carissa was totally correct.
We can stop there.
But I kept on checking the website because it seemed like all of them had arrived and maybe they just weren't letting us come to get them installed at Walmart. So I actually messaged with the Walmart client services representative and they let me know that yes, all of them were there. They'd been there for a while, but they were just waiting on the installation being available. So I asked if we could just go and pick them up and she said that we could. Luckily, this was the perfect time too because my sister had flown down from Ohio and we would be able to put her to work. I'm so happy I double checked that it was just the fact that they didn't have the installation available. We might actually have something more for you to do so you can do some work for us.
I'm not installing the tires.
I do not feel confident that they'll give us the tires, to be honest. We ordered 4 tires on Walmart.com. They've been here for a week and a half. We shouldn't have rolled them out. We've already put some miles on them.
I know, I was thinking that. I was like, but I don't want to ruin them. I was like,
They're literally tires. I know. Should we go straight to Firestone?
yeah, probably it's 1028.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby. Went to the wrong Firestone. I found my way to the right tire shop and we dropped off the van for the day to get our new tires installed, get the alignment done, and went next door to grab some lights and Rust-Oleum because we were ready to start the maintenance and cleaning process. Luckily, it was a little gross but not too rusty on the van floor, but for the next few months we seemed to do nothing but clean that van, mostly because we were focused on other things during that time and our deadline felt like it was so far away, October 19th when our lease was up.
But finally, months later, on July 6th, it felt like the official start of the build because the van was as clean as it was going to get and it was time to start putting up sound deadening. So we are starting a new part of this adventure. We are putting in the sound deadening. We're using Kilmat. It only needs to cover about 25% of the van, but as you can see, all the rust is gone. We put a bunch of fiberglass and resin over the holes that were left from us pulling up the flooring and the screws there. This will be the start of actually renovating it to live in instead of just renovating it for it to be functional and last us for a while. A few hours later, this is what we have. Started on the wheel well with the last piece we have. The next will be the floors and the ceiling. This is definitely the easiest part so far. It's relaxing, it's not intensive, so I am thankful to be doing it.
We did have to order more and went through a total of 54 square feet of the Kilmat for our 144 Sprinter. And just with that, we could tell a really big difference in how it all sounded while we were driving or even just walking in it. But what helped out even more was the next major project, insulation. So I'm here at a Lowe's right now because they were the only place that I could find this 3M90 for less than like $20 or $40, and they actually had a little in stock. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, I'm so happy that we were able to get this for our van.
So what Anthony just bought was this really strong spray adhesive called 3M. We had a really hard time finding it because of the panorama that we're in. But since then we've seen it all over, so you shouldn't have a hard time finding it if you're using it for your build. We used Thinsulate, a thinner one than we meant to.
Yeah, my bad.
We used the
400L instead of the 600L because that's the one that was on Amazon and I didn't realize it until it was already all the way up.
But we've been in New England for the past month and as Florida people, we've barely had to use our heater at all. Barely though, for real.
It's cold today, guys.
So all we did is we sprayed the adhesive on the white side and then stuck it up. Make sure you use a respirator because it can be highly toxic. We only used 50 linear feet for it and it was pretty much inch perfect for the whole van.
It's getting there. Pretty much. I mean, yeah. You gotta do around that, a couple other places. How you feel?
It's a lot easier doing this with 2 people. So it'll probably only take us a couple more hours.
The great thing about having the van is there's enough space that you can just leave all this crap in here when it's nighttime.
Yes.
And come back to it in the morning. Feels so good.
I know it does.
That feels so good. We did come back the next day and finish the rest of the installation, except for 2 parts. The first was the headliner shelf, which is right up here, that we did when I messed with the electrical wiring, and then the ceiling, which we waited to actually put up the ceiling because we didn't want it falling on us while we were working on the rest of the van. But before we could put in our ceiling, we actually had to put in our fan.
I'm glad I'm not going to be the one on the roof.
This is like the first thing that actually feels like we're building a van. Like insulation did.
I feel like we're going to say that at every step.
No, we're putting a hole in our roof. This is the only thing that can feel like the first.
Yeah, I feel like I've watched enough YouTube videos to be comfortable with that, which is why we're not making our own YouTube video that tells you how to do it, because we have no idea. Quick pause. Remember at the beginning of the video when we talked about the build taking both way longer and way shorter than we expected? Until now, it's definitely been way longer than we expected. When we're installing the fan here, it's been 5 months since we bought the van. over 6 months since we actually had an agreed upon offer. Now our timeline has to ramp up and we're getting to this shorter than we expected part.
So like we said earlier, our deadline was October 19th when our lease was up, but we had a friend getting married in Cleveland on September 18th. So our initial plan was to leave in October and head straight west to skip the cold. But we thought if we left a month earlier, we could see the fall foliage. So we decided to push up our build a whole month, which means from where we are installing the fan, we have 5 weeks to make the van look like this. So we have to focus a lot more on the build than filming. So what you'll see from here on out will be pretty much from Instagram stories.
So follow us there. So from this point on, all I focused on until September 15th, which was our new move-in date, was building out the van to at least be livable. And that started with putting in this fan. Then we remembered we lived in Florida, so we came back the next day and got to work. This was probably the most cautious I've ever cut something because it's just a massive hole in the roof of my car house. But with small pilot holes at the edge of each line, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Then we put in tape, screws, and lap sealant to make sure it wouldn't move or leak. And once it's dry, you can put the actual fan in.
So right now, this is how we open it, right here. And then it'll open the top part of it, as you can see. That way you can use it whether it's raining or not. So now it's open, and now even if it's raining, you still have some fan because it's got a rain cover.
We've definitely left it open accidentally while it's been raining, and it was totally fine, but we wouldn't do it on purpose.
Since our electrical still wasn't installed, I used a fuse tap and a metal bolt to give it a test later in the day. That was a big sigh of relief because I hadn't known anything about electrical work before we started this build, and even just getting it to work with a fuse tap down there felt incredible. But the next thing that we put in made the van actually finally start to feel like it could turn into a home. This is where having saved those floor pieces we took out of the van would have helped. But I took some cardboard boxes and taped them into the shape of the floor, then transferred that to this pink foam board and cut it out with a utility knife. That pink stuff is 1-inch thick XPS insulation, and you can find it at any hardware store. Once I had the pink boards cut to shape, I transferred that shape to the 3 sheets of plywood and cut them out. Then I took PL Premium construction adhesive and put it on all the little ribs of the van floor and adhered it straight onto the foam board. We put the plywood and then basically our whole apartment on it for the night to let it dry.
So we've got to remember this Tetris shape to weigh everything down so that the adhesive sets and it's all as level as it can be in a van.
The next day I put some gaps and cracks and Reflectix tape on the little cracks between the boards, and then I used the same adhesive to put the plywood on the foam and then weighed it down again overnight, hoping that it would hold.
It seems good.
So now we're gonna put spar urethane on it. It's just the subfloor, so probably don't need to, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, so we'll put probably 2 or 3 coats on it.
And since we went from the roof to the floor, it was time to get back on the roof again.
Uh-oh. That's how that one came. Hopefully the panel is good. That's pretty cool.
We went with 3 100-watt monocrystaline solar panels wired in series, meaning that the positive of one connects to the negative of the other. I'm not an electrician, so even though we'll talk about parts of our solar and electrical install, there are way better people that you can learn some of these things from, and we'll link to those YouTube videos that I learned everything from in the description.
Our solar install was less than a month from when we had to leave. And with an empty van, we really had to ramp it up. But aren't you a little curious what this whole build did to our apartment? It was a wild time, and I have a little tour for you for what it looked like. I wanted to give you guys a little apartment tour just so you can see what Vanlife has done to our little apartment. So walking in right off the bat, we have a ladder and workstation. And then we have Anthony, a filming light, and then wood right here.
The filming light is also a night light for working on the van.
So we have all this right here set up on our bar stools, our storage supply, and we also receive packages on our kitchen counter now. That's another spot we do that, as well as fill up car wash containers and just keep random bags of trash from the van. The bedroom, we have giveaway items right here, tools, more tools, and also the insulation that is going to go on the ceiling of the van.
And that insulation would be put up soon, but first we had to figure out our whole electrical system, and that's probably what I was doing when you saw me on the couch on the tour. I don't know how many hours it took, but like hundreds probably, and I was finally able to feel comfortable with AC versus DC current, different fuse and wire sizes, and how to put all the solar and alternator power together. And eventually,
Power! Our solar panel is up there. It connects to this battery. and these wires connect to this fan, we have power. It works.
And we can go over each individual system, like the electrical or the water system, in a different video if you'd like to, but we are not experts. And so after getting the electrical system all set up and then everything pre-wired in the van, we decided to work on it from back to front, which meant starting with this bed and the garage area. And look, I thought I had a genius idea. Our bed is only about 3 inches shorter than the bed that we had in our apartment, and it's the same width. So I thought if I just took the aluminum bed frame, cut out a couple inches in the middle, and put it back together with some more aluminum, we would be able to save some money and make it a little bit lighter in the back here. And I think Carissa didn't post the footage of that out of pity. But after spending all day on my genius idea, if you put any weight on it at all, it just completely fell apart. It felt like a whole wasted day on an already super short timeline. And that was just compounded by the fact that the next day I went to a hardware store, and in about 3 hours and like $30 of 2x4s, I built this bed, which is nice and sturdy.
Next, we started putting in the ceiling insulation first and our dimmable puck lights.
As you can probably guess, this was totally a two-person project, but at this point, I had just been so tired and frustrated by everything that was going on, and I kind of learned an important lesson. Nobody cares as much as you do about how perfect everything is going to be. I didn't fully accept this at first, and honestly still kind of don't, but the goal more and more became to not make it perfect, but just livable for us, especially as that time got more and more strained. So next we put up the partition between the bed as well as the rest of the van, with a spot both for outlets and to monitor electricity and mess with Carissa, I mean turn on the inverter. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah, I just gotta turn the inverter.
Boo. Yay! The reason that we made our bed across the van this way instead of going this way was 1, because we're short enough, and 2, it gave us room for an extra eating space with benches. So I found a design I really liked on Pinterest, of course, and it gave us a lot of extra storage in the benches too.
Clamping this up to pocket pull together. Gonna have some storage down here, go over the wheel well. Hopefully it's square enough. Honestly, with this build, that became our motto, square enough. It did not have to be perfect, but as long as it worked, it would be fine, because our van's not gonna be square anyways. And once we had them both dry fitted, we really wanted to see how much storage there were, so we had a couple of tests.
Oh, look at that, dude. See? I told you.
Custom fit.
Let's see if you can fit.
Oops, wait. Yeah, my shoulder's not gonna drop down that far.
Carissa minus 1 cubic feet big.
Carissa with a smaller butt. Besides not fitting a human, aka me, there was one slight problem, but once it was fixed, it was time to work on the 2 main cabinets, custom fit to what we wanted to put in the van. To get the drawers right, we had to have already ordered everything that we wanted to put in them and then measured it out. We had 4 big gallon jugs of water to fit in the passenger side where we would put plumbing, and then we had a fridge, trash can, grocery storage, camp stove, and pots and pan storage to all go in the driver's side cabinets. So with everything measured out, it was a simple process of making square-ish boxes for the drawers, 3-sided boxes for the cabinets that they'd sit in, and taking hours and hours to fit drawer slides on, and then finishing all of it. And with all of it built and finished, it was time for install day. What are you up to? I just finished these. The rib nuts are going in much better now. Put these in and the benches will be in, and then I'm gonna screw this into the back of these and install the shelves, and then we can start working on this last one over here. And we should have all the shelves in today, and I can start working on the uppers and the counters and the walls. So I was able to hide the wires and get all the drawers and cabinets installed, but I was having my final session in Orlando with my counselor, and I decided to drive it up without really thinking too much about it. But this happened a ton during the drive. And because our fridge was weighing one of the drawers down, the fridge slide broke during all that movement. So I'm gonna have to try to fix that somehow. That's annoying. We eventually found a good solution with these ball catches that have adjustable tension in them. But since we had to order those and we only had a week left in the build, we had to keep going. So we opened up our bed and got it cut. Me and my mom made cushions for the benches with covers. We made faces for our drawers and had what was pretty much our final run to the hardware store.
I feel like we're running out of money.
So I'm gonna say $430.
$420. We did get a little extra help from one of my friends this Saturday before we left, and we knocked out the flooring. We have to make multiple cuts on this side because this isn't necessarily square. I'm kind of wishing we put the floor in first. I'm seeing now the benefits of that.
We can figure it out. Luckily, we did figure it out, but we did have to make some weird cuts. Stop laughing!
Sorry. Your hands here. No one talks like this.
And luckily we did figure it out, but we did have to make some weird cuts because we had to get in between each of these little individual spaces, and so some of the cuts look like this one. Then we were able to get the upper cabinets done and the countertops finished.
Saturday before we leave, just got these up, looking all right. Next is the walls, hiding all that electrical. Starting to look like a van. Definitely disappointed in a lot of it, but you do what you can do. I'm just so done with working on this stupid van. It's been my whole 40 days of doing it straight. I know that in 2 months after I haven't worked on it for a while, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I get to work on the van now. But for now, I'm so ready to be done. Luckily, the next day, I was actually able to start being a little bit proud of all of the work that I put into the van. We made the van look a little more done than it actually was by putting in the bed before everything was finished.
Oh.
Is it comfy?
Yeah, it's actually really comfy.
Placing the countertops on without fully screwing them in, and that's because we actually did an open van.
We invited all the people who helped us, encouraged us, and were just interested in our journey to come see the van before we left in it. And so we could sell or give away as much as we possibly could before leaving.
So we didn't have to take it all to Goodwill.
It was so good to see our friends and be able to share all of our hard work that we had done on the van and give them a little taste of what was next for us. If you are leaving in a van, we highly recommend doing this. It was one of the best times.
I had hoped to be done with the build before we had done our open van so I could show everyone the absolute finished product, but that wasn't quite the case, and we still had some major projects to finish the 3 remaining days that we had before we left on our journey. So we put up our walls, which were not nearly as good as I wanted, but they did the job. Well, I mean, I guess they do the job, because I don't really have any plans of actually changing it. I don't like that there are seams all over the place that you could see, and you can see all of the screw holes and everything, but like I said, no one cares, and they work. And then it was time to fill our water jugs and test my plumbing. The first time that I had ever done anything with plumbing. As you might expect by my lack of plumbing skills, we had a pretty major leak, and then a less major leak when I tried to fix it the first time, and then an even bigger leak when I tried to fix it the second time, and then less of a leak when I tried to fix it the third time. And it was the day before we were leaving, so I just kind of said, screw it, we'll deal with it later, and that's a story for the next video. Calling it quits on the plumbing meant that it was finally time to actually install the countertops, and so using some pocket screws as well as screws through this board right here, we installed those, and then while I was building the soap rack and the spice rack to go into the walls, Carissa started actually putting everything in the van.
All your shirts and stuff are in here.
Oh, nice. Almost there. Oh my gosh, there's so much wood in here. I feel less prepared to leave here than I do to go on a vacation, and we don't even prepare for vacations well.
I mean, that makes sense because we aren't going on vacation. We're moving.
Yeah, but moving, you normally are ready to... moving, you don't normally have to make your house.
That's true.
You know what time it is? 12:03 a.m. 12:04 now. Oh no. So I guess we're leaving today. And our apartment is still a mess. Everything that we own, or that we want to own, I guess, fits in here.
Yeah, we own a lot inside.
I hope our water system still works. Or works and doesn't leak at all. Let's go pop some champagne. Yay!
Our apartment was still a mess, but we had a half a glass of champagne to celebrate and ended up knocking out.
Yeah.
When we woke up, we would have to move our whole life into 90 square feet on wheels, and we wouldn't have an apartment to come back to that night.
So subscribe to follow that journey, and if you thought that this story was a little bit crazy, you will love the madness of last week just trying to get this van to be ours. And you can watch that video right here.
And we'll see you next week.
Wait.